Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our meeting of the North Penn School District Board of School Directors, February 10th, 1998. The meeting tonight is our regularly scheduled work session. The meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone and state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 5 minutes. This limit will permit time for all those who wish to speak to the board to do so, and whenever members of the audience exceed this time limit, the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker. And this is in reference to Board Policy 8344.2. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Resnock, and would you lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, I have a little housekeeping I need to take care of. First of all, I'd like to list for you a number of executive sessions that were held recently. There was one this evening starting at 6:30 for matters of personnel and litigation, today being 2:10. There was an executive session on 2/6, Friday, 12 o'clock, an executive session on the Personnel Committee. There was also an executive session 2/9 Monday at 9:30 a.m. for reasons of personnel. The results of those executive sessions will be revealed at the end of this evening. Also, we have some cancellations of upcoming board committees. The Special Ed and Student Services Committee of February 11th has been canceled. Again, the Support Services Committee of the board has been canceled for February 11th. I'll announce those cancellations again at the end of the evening in the event that other people come in, and a notice will be posted on the door, and also this will be listed on Channel 16. And Informaphone, thank you. Also, I have something here for Dr. Bose, and that is a nice packet of letters that have come from students at North Wales Elementary. The students were asked to do a persuasive essay of matters that concern them in our local schools, and that they were to, I guess many of them decided to prevail upon the school board and the superintendent for some eminent changes. I would appreciate it if Dr. Bose would get back to some of these children. We have a young man here that feels there should be no homework for 3 days. We also have a young lady here, a Miss Doyle, who feels that students need 3 days off to get away from school because they need stress-free time, and that we should only come to school Monday through Thursday and have a long Friday, Saturday, and Sunday weekend. Again, Kelly Krause is looking for less homework, and what I call student prep time is a request here for 30 minutes of free time a day, during the school day, of course. I have a feeling Jeff Jordan put some of these children up to these. Homework only for 2 days a week. Oh, this is a favorite. Yes, Jeff will like this. This is students feel they should pick their own teachers. They have a ballot, and this is a very persuasive argument. I think it could get on the agenda shortly. But this was a very, very good one. Let me see, there's more. Here we go. 1 hour lunch and recess. Another major subject to be added to the long day. Swings for one playground at North Wales. Very, very good paper by Julie. 2 30-minute long recesses a day. And here's a man after my own heart. We should have gym 2 days a week, not 1. And I absolutely agree with Nick Perez. Also, this is great. Many children think there are too many days of chicken nuggets. We want more pizza days. Finally, students wouldn't get into as many food fights because they'd be enjoying their food and not want to throw it. I think that's sound reasonable.
I think you have 9 votes for that.
I think you do.
Less chicken nuggets.
So, allowing Tamagotchis in school? Ooh. And here for Mr. Sherpinski's brother, Michael, cable should be free. We'll get you a CC for that one, Mr. Sherpinski. So, Dr. Bose, if you would take some time and enjoy these essays, and if a nice letter could go back to these kids, we as a full board would appreciate it. Okay, and you have some introductions to make.
Well, you've already introduced Louis Rusnock, but let me make it official to the community that welcomes his joining our staff and looks forward with great expectations to the good work that Lou will do as the leader and director of our special education and our student services programs. So this is Lou's first school board meeting, and I know that he's looked forward to the opportunity to be unveiled and to be formally introduced. I don't know whether he has a 30-minute speech or not, but if you want to make any short, brief remarks, Lou, you're welcome to. In any event, we welcome you and appreciate your deciding to join our staff.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. I think the only thing I could say is I'm very happy to be here, and everyone I've worked with and talked to has been very welcoming and very helpful in the short time I've been here, and I look forward to working with the North Penn School District for a long time.
And Lou, we will have a lot of work for you.
I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, folks, it is a board committee meeting. We have an agenda here under community services and policy, which is pretty extensive. And Dr. Bose, if you don't have anything to add to that, I'll turn it over then to Mr. Sherpinski.
I would only point out what I'm sure Mr. Sherpinski will cover in his overview, and that is there has been an amendment to this policy that it has been reviewed by the solicitor since the last one you saw, and I know that Mr. Sherpinski will point that out.
We got in our copy of the amended copy in our packet. That's the amended.
That's the amended copy. Thank you, Madam President. Tonight on the agenda is item number 1 is Board Policy 6166, which is the Internet Acceptable Use Policy, item 166-97. The only revision to this now is the page 6166F, which is the acknowledgments in the form that we will be sending home to the parents of the students who wish Internet access. Vicki made some good comments about the requirement of a teacher signature on there, and since the teachers, hopefully, that's covered automatically, I believe, in their employment service. So we remove that duplicity and they don't have to sign it, and that is the change that we're recommending to the policy.
So this portion down here, Vince, in the parentheses that says if the account holder is a student, then parent and teacher signatures are required. You're taking out the and teacher?
Yeah, they should have removed that, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That change is going to remove that and parent or and teacher signatures requirement.
It says
We're gonna
It'll
remove
just say
and-
then
and
parent's
teachers.
legal
signature.
guardian.
Yeah.
Right, and legal guardian?
And or legal guardian, right.
Okay.
Vince, there's one more place where it's still left in. If you turn to 6166D, and you go down to the bottom where you have 1 and 2 under that last category or paragraph, a use agreement form to be signed by the student, user, parent, or guardian, and a supervising teacher. So that's one more reference spot.
6166B?
60D, like David.
Where is it?
Under parent responsibility, number 2.
Right, we have the teacher in there then. I think it's clear, though, that the teachers will basically be signing a pledge that's redundant to their commitment to the district through employment, if in fact you follow through with them as a user. As an account holder, they're making that same pledge too, so certainly we don't need it, and I appreciate us eliminating that bureaucratic nightmare and useless redundancy. That's the only other spot I still
Let me
see.
ask you a question. Didn't the solicitor review this? Did he recommend that to be stricken?
He said we could if we wished to.
Okay.
I mean, it didn't have a major effect on how we implemented the policy or how our procedures are going to go around, so
Okay.
Right. It had no
Vicki made a
legal weight.
suggestion, and we decided
No, I
it
know,
was,
Vic,
it
I
best.
just don't want to have to kick this back to
Right.
Frank for, that one
No,
sentence
it
again.
was optional, as far as Frank was concerned.
So it would end with parent or guardian, and a supervising teacher can be stricken.
Well, stricken the end is supervising
Okay.
teacher, right?
That's great. I think that's a good point.
Is there any
Thank
other
you.
board
So you'll have the
questions?
second reading then at
At next Thursday's meeting with the correction made tonight.
Mr. Allen,
I read
questions?
No.
Left?
I read it.
Mr. Hill? Any more questions, Mr. Shawn?
No.
Is everybody fine?
Yep.
Okay, members of the audience, anybody, I know this topic was an important one to many of you. Is there any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, thank you. Mr. Shapinsky, you-
Item number 2 is Board Policy 9140, Board Committees. As you'll see in your agenda, we were requested by our legal staff, or our legal solicitor staff, really, to update the standing board policies to reference with board committees. All this is an update of our policy.
Okay, this is a
As
simple one,
distributed.
folks. Any board questions to the right? Left?
Just one. Vince, you and I talked about this, and you were going to run it by Frank.
Frank made the changes to it.
Okay, in reference to the recorder, who can make the appointment of a recorder? Would the committee chairman do that?
Under the bylaws, it can be appointed by the chairman of that committee, or we can bring in some support staff member to do it permanently for all the
Okay.
committees.
So-
But it has to be done by individual chairman of the committee.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be a committee member that takes minutes?
No, as a matter of fact-
It could be a support
Yeah.
staff person? Thank you.
Absolutely.
And nobody can be made to do it. If someone says,
No,
no,
I
I
know
will
that,
not, they
but-
cannot be made to do it.
Frank and I'm sorry, Vince and I, we
Right.
talked about this, and I'd asked for clarification, and I know he's busy, and, we're all
Right.
busy. He may have gotten back, and I just didn't get a message. Thank you.
Okay, any further board questions?
The only question that I had, and I'm not quite sure if it really applies to the bylaws, as I read this is basically just establishing the guidelines for our new committee structure.
Right.
In regards to notification, I want to know, do we have to include language in the policy for notification of the agendas to be made in a timely fashion, not only to the community, but to all the board members as well, so that the board members know ahead of time what's coming up on a committee agenda in case they want to come. And in follow-up to that, a copy of the minutes. I have a question about the minutes and the statement that they should be approved at the next meeting. I spoke with Mr. Bartle about this, and he, I know he advised that you can do it this way, but I'm just concerned about the information through the minutes coming to the board in a timely fashion. And if we have to wait until the following meeting to have those minutes approved, then it's going to delay that information, not only getting to the board of what transpired at that committee, but to the public. So I was wondering if there is a more timely way that we could produce the minutes for the board and the community. I just.
Madam President, if I can interrupt, we had discussed this, it came up at our meeting last week, and our packets go out on Friday. It would have been impossible to have the minutes of those meetings
Right.
last Thursday
Right.
typed in our packets in time.
Right.
I had suggested at that point in time, although it may lengthen the action meetings, that the committee chairs of the various departments will have to make a verbal report as to what transpired at the
Sure.
meeting, even
That's what
though
that's for.
even though the minutes may not be approved till the next time we meet in committee,
Right.
we will still have to make a verbal report as to what transpired
Well,
at
that's the
that.
whole point of
And
each
the other
committee being
question,
called off.
and the other question, and I do agree with Mrs. Krieger, I found out up until, and Dr. Bo said he would correct this, and I'm sure he will. What has transpired is that agendas have only been going out to the various committee members who serve on those committies. And I think since now they're open meetings, and we as a board have a right to attend those meetings as well as the public,
Right.
because of our work schedules and possible conflicts of interest and so forth, and I don't know if we need to, you have to make a presidential decision on this or how we go about this, but it was my recommendation that the agendas for all the committees that are going to meet that month or whenever go out to all the board members so that we can adjust our schedule. If there's something that appears at a particular board meeting, whether it be community relations or technology, and we want to go there, that we can adjust our schedules accordingly.
That's fine.
Mr. Mosey, that doesn't require board action. That is already in the works.
Yeah, I know you said you were going to, yeah, I was just clarifying
I just
from
wanted-
Mrs. Mangle, because she was not at the meetings last week
I
when we
just wanted
discussed
to make
it.
sure that we didn't have to include that language in order to
not a legal requirement.
have that occur.
Right.
Yeah, I told you.
Any other comments, questions left? This is the first reading, Mr. Shapinsky, do we need that?
Correct.
Pardon me?
Yes, this
Okay.
is the first reading as distributed.
So if there would be any potential changes, there's time for the next reading.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Any members of the audience?
No,
Any
how
comments?
about to the,
I'm
excuse me.
sorry. Go ahead.
Can anyone help me? Vince, were you able to catch up with Frank, our solicitor, regarding the fact that all of these requirements are because he feels that this is the most appropriate way, some through regulations and law, for the holding of this new committee structure. Yet I raised the question that a lot of these requirements have not been applied to these meetings that we're sitting here at tonight, the committee of the whole meetings. We note them on our calendar that sent to parents, but we don't take the formal action of publication. I have never sat at a board meeting and approved minutes of a committee of the whole meeting, and in this setting, we're here as a quorum conducting official business. And so I've wondered, how is it, if this is what is required of us, as we're minority members of this board, no quorum, I don't even understand how we can have official action or votes, because by
We don't
school
vote.
code, you
We
cannot.
don't vote. The only
I know
thing-
there's a provision here, though,
The only thing
for
we
it.
vote on, Mrs. Shear, is we vote to whether the committee makes a recommendation to bring a particular item before the board as a whole.
Okay, 'cause-
We in committee cannot vote on anything.
Right.
The only vote that we can take is basically a consensus vote, whether we want to bring a particular item before the board as a whole. And from what the solicitor told me, since we're going into this committee structure, we have to have minutes.
Right, it says official
Across the
actions.
board.
I realize that, but I've asked
These have to
if
have
you would
minutes.
get back to him to ask,
and I
what
did.
could draw the
This-
distinction that this
because it
meeting
is an
here is not
official-
treated at the same level of
Because,
criteria?
Vicki, Frank's explanation to me was that it is an official action meeting of the committee.
Right.
Therefore, we have to take minutes and keep minutes.
But wait.
But you can't take action on anything that requires the authority
We
of
can
the
as a
board.
committee.
The only action we
When I-
take
But
is
with
to
that
bring it
recommendation is to bring it
before
forward to
the
the
board
full
as a whole.
board.
That's right. That's the action we vote on.
Even garnering consensus to put an item on the action agenda
Right.
constitute business.
Right.
And
Exactly.
Mr. Bartle told me
This
when
is
I
board
questioned him over the weekend about this very issue, and he told me that he was gonna speak to Dr. Bose about it Monday, just to reaffirm one more time of the direction that he did give him, that even minutes are supposed to be recorded for this meeting.
Well, then that's my point. That's
You don't
exactly
have
what
to
I'm questioning.
approve
Why
them.
do we not do them?
Per se, but if we're applying it to the committee meetings, then we should approve them as well. So that really does need to be followed up on by Dr.
Mr.
Bose.
Shapinsky, would you
Okay,
get back
perhaps
to
I'll
Mr.
discuss
Bartle
it
about
with
that
him.
and put it
I'm
into
not sure
this?
we're
Thank
following
you.
up. I'm not sure we're following up on it.
I myself will make
Are
the
there any other
call.
questions, Mrs. Scher?
No, I just like clarification to make sure we're
Fine.
handling all meetings appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schilling? Thank you. Any members, yes. Any other members of the audience, please step forward.
Linda Abram of Gwinnett. I asked and received a copy this week of the Notice of Committee Meetings calendar, and it lists all of your committees and the dates, and, I just Xed out the couple that you spoke of. By the way, is facilities meeting on the 11th of February?
Yes,
Or
sir.
is it-
Yes.
Okay.
Work out tomorrow.
Again, I know this is a work in progress. I'm always amazed how many people don't come to these meetings. So my concern is always that we need to get more people out to hear and absorb and gather information as parents and community members. Is there a way that this document, or whatever official form of this document, can be left at board meetings? When you have your 2 monthly board meetings where possibly more people might come, could you leave this list on the back table? Because it does list all of your committees and when they meet through November, and then you're announcing changes, and if you don't have this in front of you, you know, you might not have taken note of when it was meeting in the first place. Okay? All right, that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Abrams. Anybody else?
I'd have told her no, just to be ordinary.
All righty, thank you. TB test practice, Mr. Shapinsky.
I'll refer this item back to Dr. Bose so he can give a brief explanation to the board about it.
All righty.
The practice, and I'm using the word practice to make a distinction for all of us, in that the board, and I think the general public understands, there are board policies, and there are rules and regulations that the administration implements or adopts to implement board policy, and then there are school laws, generally school code, that govern the operation and the requirements for Pennsylvania's public schools. The TB test that we all remember, probably from our own childhoods, and we probably recall it was a requirement for admission to school, is now looked upon by the medical profession in disfavor. Physicians are telling us that the TB test itself provides a remote chance for contacting TB because of the nature of the testing fluids. And the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Health have advised us in official correspondence received within the last month that the school code requiring the TB test will be withdrawn. And the provisions of this letter suggest, as do the various physicians and pediatricians who have either served the school district or advised the school district from their own associations, have suggested that we voluntarily discontinue the use of the TB test as a condition for admittance to or enrollment to school. And so, because this is a law, it doesn't require a policy, it was previously automatically implemented because it was a piece of the school code. We've now been advised that it will be removed from the school code, and before that's done, if we wish to discontinue the practice of requiring the test for all new students, we may do so by notifying both the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Health, who serve the Commonwealth in those capacities. And so Mr. Rusnock and I have talked about this, and we have advised the board that we will discontinue, effective for the next school year, the old and traditional requirement of a TB test as a prerequisite for being admitted to school. And we wanted to advise the board of that, as well as the general public, through this means, and we will follow the requirements for discontinuing the practice as set forth in that correspondence we received from both those Secretaries of Education and Health, respectively. End of comment.
End of comment. Board questions to left?
The only thing I would like to say, Mr. Rusnock, I thank you very much for your letter of explanation. It came forward in a timely fashion, and we had plenty of time to consider it and review it, and I thank you for that.
Mrs. Creek?
I'm just happy for all the little 4-year-olds who are, I'm sure, going to watch the replay and be very happy for the one
They're not
less
going to get a needle.
stick in their future.
Anybody else to the left?
No.
To the right?
This will
Okay.
affect volunteers too, right? Volunteers inside the school have traditionally had.
As it stands right now, it only addresses students.
They're going to relinquish it for the students, but we'll still be requiring it for, say,
That-
classroom teacher aides and things?
That's the way the recommendation is right now.
Maybe they forgot a paragraph or
Older-
something. I checked on that, that doesn't make sense,
Right.
A lot
but
of us
okay.
probably had the test, that's why.
Jeez, thought I was saying the logical.
Any members of the audience?
Yeah, that's right.
Any questions, comments from the audience on that matter? Okay, thank you. 1998-99 school calendar, I think that's Dr. Bose?
You do have a copy of the calendar that's recommended for your consideration in front of you. Since the first one was provided you for your study, we've made a change in that calendar, and I want to point that out as soon as I can find it. Thank you, Bob. The change is in the days that school would be extended to make up for days closed because of inclement weather. And that first day was April the 5th, and we've been advised by a number of people, including the Teachers Association, as well as others who have had occasion to look at that draft, that wouldn't be too popular. Even if it were noticed and circulated a full 18 months in advance, it probably wouldn't be too popular. So we withdrawn that, and you'll notice that we suggest the commencement of make-up days, should that be necessary, in June, rather than taking one away from the spring long weekend. So the calendar remains unchanged from that one that you previously saw, except for this change as I've noted it. Let me say also, in consultation with the 5 school districts that support the North Montco Technical Career Center, this calendar was a topic of a lengthy discussion the participating superintendents had this morning on the school calendar. As you might imagine, we've got to coordinate those calendars to the extent possible, because there are kids coming from 5 different school districts to attend that Technical Career Center. And the question of when to start school, since Labor Day now in 1998 comes as late as it possibly could. It comes on the 7th day of September, which is the Monday that is traditionally set aside for Labor Day. So the question was, among those school districts, do we start school before Labor Day, or do we stay with the longstanding tradition and start school after Labor Day? And of the 5 districts, 4 of them have decided that they will start school after Labor Day. And of course, North Bend's calendar reflects that as well. 1 will start school before Labor Day and have staff attending training and school preparation requirements in August. And that's Wissahickon, though I understand its calendar still is not final. So that gives you a glimpse of the unique difficulty this calendar presents in terms of a variety of views about when to start school and consequently when to end school. So I present it for your consideration and your discussion, and with your approval, it will be up to you for a vote on the meeting of February 19th.
And you're sure this won't screw up the football schedule?
The football schedule. Well,
Priorities.
I do not believe so.
Thank you.
Ms. Mingle.
Any questions to the right?
I'm not sure about the football schedule.
Mr. Schilling?
No questions.
Around?
And Dr. Bose, I appreciate seeing that your compensation here is that you have placed some of these in service days ahead of the beginning of the school calendar this year. And I'd have to say that even if we began 4 days earlier, if those in-service days were scattered within the calendar, our last day of school would have been just where it is today. So that is at least a positive compensation for that. And I think that it gives us a little more continuity to the students, given how many days that they're off for between holidays and service days. But I'd like to also have a notice of the early dismissal days. I don't think until we got into the calendar and really started seeing this play out week by week, how many days were half days and then in service days coming through to us as the school year came. With 10 elementary, there were 10 elementary early dismissal days. How many holidays do we have here? Approximately 2 weeks worth of holidays plus 7 in service days. So I would like to see the full picture a little bit better by seeing those early dismissal days also come to us before we vote on this next week. And outside of that, I guess the only thing I'd again say, while I would not disrupt the spring holiday because I know that's where people tend to make plans where they have deposits on tickets. However, I would not be opposed or object to President's Day and Martin Luther King Day, the single holidays, there being noted as snow days if need be, rather than have us fall into the dilemma that we have with graduation sometimes being extended because of bad weather. I mean, we were very fortunate this year. There's only 2 or 3 days that are actually even there for us to take. But I don't know if we'll be as lucky as this year, and hopefully we won't be as bad as the previous 2 years. But that would be the only other suggestions. I mean, I don't have any great opposition to it, but those are considerations and concerns I've had for many years now. And I do appreciate you addressing the in-service days. Thank you.
Any questions still left? Mr. Spitzer?
Whether we post the half-days or not, that's not going to affect the calendar, right?
Right.
Okay, the other thing is, Vicki said there were 7 in-service days. I only see 6 on this
That's all I
calendar.
see.
Right,
The last day of school is your 7th.
right.
The Friday, the last day for
Benefit to the
teachers? June 11th, Vince. It's not marked as an in-service, but it's the one additional workday that the students aren't in class. 11th. June 11th? 14th, I'm sorry.
No further questions.
I'm looking at the asterisk.
Okay, around Mrs. Krieger?
Dr. Robinson, do you already have an idea for next year, besides these in-service days, what days would be proposed for staff development with the half-days, early dismissal days, I'm sorry? Do you already have that particular calendar in mind in addition to these, or are those days already incorporated in here?
No, those days are not incorporated in here.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Those days are not incorporated in here. You might recall at the committee meeting, you had raised that question.
Right.
So I have begun working on that, and I have a draft. However, it has not yet been brought before Cabinet, nor has it been discussed at our curriculum committee meeting.
Okay. Is there any possibility before our action meeting? Because along with this, I had brought up for discussion in the committee meeting that we take a look at redesigning this calendar to make it more user-friendly, basically. This is just hard to, at a glance, to really identify with the number of days that we are offering for education and staff development and all the other things that we do here in the district. I would like to see a new format used for the staff, for the school calendar. I've spoken with Dr. Hassler about that a little bit, and I kind of wanted to know if the board shares, the same feelings that I have, just with the way this, it's very, it's not that it's confusing. I think you can sit down and figure this out, but I have greater comfort with being able to look at an actual calendar and through the use of a, well-defined key, be able to look and say, okay, in this particular month, we have so many early dismissals, and I'd also like them defined as far as if it's, staff development for high school staff, middle school staff, elementary staff, just so that it's complete. You'd be surprised how many telephone calls I've received, I'm sure other board members have received, in regards to, well, what are the kids getting out early for this week? And didn't they just have in service? In particular, we have 2 half-days this week and a full day Friday. Tomorrow's being utilized, at least at one elementary school, for parent conferences, but yet the report cards came home today. You may not share, my concerns over that, but, if a child's gonna come home with a bad report card, I'd like us to try to schedule those kinds of days for conferences ahead of the release of the report card, so that at least it gives teachers and parents the opportunity to get together before those report cards go home, in case there is a situation that, could be difficult for the child to deliver unknowingly, to the parents unknowingly. So these are just some things for consideration that I wanted to bring up for the board's consideration tonight, to see how you felt about those ideas.
Isn't all that stuff taken care of in the school calendar that goes out to every
Print it calendar.
student?
Yeah, we can't print it until we approve a calendar.
Right,
Right.
and we also don't know every day when there's early dismissals yet. And they don't do that until the summer,
Right.
And they make the counter. All we're doing is days that we're there and days that we're not.
No.
That's not
No,
true.
that's not what Ben said.
Well, what we'll do, we first need to have a calendar
Yeah.
approved. Then we can go back and plug
fit in the
in.
Let's
days.
just take care of
Right,
this.
so-
The next
but we
issue
can
is to get
certainly-
the other
In
stuff
the
later.
final
Yeah.
format.
Right, but I understand your point. What you're looking for is a format that's user-friendly, so when you look at it, you don't have to go through the whole calendar to say, oh, these are the days. You can look at one sheet of paper.
Right.
And I think we can look at a design that would
Okay.
probably better suit what you're, address what you're talking about. I don't see that as
We can't hold
as
up
an either.
implementing this.
No, but
I'm
we,
not asking
yeah,
you that.
right. We definitely need this done before we can move to the next step. But I
Wait a
understand
minute.
your point.
That's something that could be
Mr.
brought.
Nosy, did you have any question?
Yeah, that's something that could be brought before the curriculum committee. Just one question if I can. Why do the snow makeup days, why don't the student and the teacher snow makeup days have the same dates?
180, 187. There's a
Right.
difference.
No, make up the.
Makeup days, snow days. I see the students have the 14th, 15th, 16th.
The teachers
18th.
always weren't
Teachers are
told
already
what
there
kids.
on the 14th.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the 14th.
I know, I see that.
Teachers are there, so it's not a
Okay.
makeup day for them.
But yet,
It's not a
but
makeup.
It's
the
just-
21st is a makeup day for the teachers and it's not for the students.
Yeah,
But they're only
Right.
behind, Pat. The kids get out on the 11th, the teachers work till Monday. That's Friday to Monday.
Okay.
So you're just adding the extra days in because of the change.
Okay. It just jumped out at me. I
No,
thought,
it is.
why have the kids make up the
They,
teachers?
their
aren't?
makeup day is actually the following Monday,
Okay,
if it should
very
go that
good.
far.
Okay. No, that's it.
Okay, any members of the community, any questions on the calendar? Anybody? Okay, before we move into finance, I just noticed these really sharp-looking NPTV
Yeah,
Channel
shirts
16
there.
blue Oxford shirts.
Yeah.
And Mr. Gilmer, I know you're in there listening.
Yes,
The
Mr.
board
Gilmer.
members would like to have order blanks for some of those shirts, and we have some board
Mr.
members here that could
Gilmore.
use some new shirts. So, young man, would you do a close-up of, or whoever can do a close-up of one shirt and show the audience what we're talking about? Yes, can you model that shirt for us? Thank you.
Give a spin, give a spin.
I think we, an MPTV fundraiser, really, shopping by cable, this is great. Okay, I'm serious, Mr. Gilmer, we would like to know more about those shirts. Finance, the 98-99 budget calendar.
I would defer to Mrs. Steady about the calendar. I know it's been a subject of discussion in the Finance Committee, and it is a product of her work and her peering into the future in terms of critical deadlines and appropriate time between activities for the development and finally the adoption of the calendar. And maybe I've said too much already, Carol, but please give the board an overview of what you think is important. And this then would be a subject of your formal approval on the 19th as well.
I'm not sure if there's anything else to be said.
Yeah, right.
It's self-explanatory here.
I think if I can oppose on, oh, I'm sorry, Vicki, you go ahead, you're chairman.
Right. I think that the main changes that we have to be looking at here is much more of the budget process is going to be with the Finance Committee. And I guess the one subject of discussion and debate, quite honestly, dealt with the fact that while there are other finance meetings and there are other board work sessions, that this new calendar is presenting the budget to the board as a corporate body on April 7th. And then the following action meeting, it is anticipated that the board would vote on the proposed budget. It would again be returning to the corporate board on May 21st, which is the adoption of the budget. I personally think that there should be injected in there at least 2 other board meetings with the board of a whole, only because we are restricted as a committee from certain actions that may be very relevant to amending the budgets. So that's the only thing that I would say. I mean, Carol's put this forward. It's a considerable amount of meetings, and I think you should all know that we as a Finance Committee have additional meetings that our traditional end of the Tuesday, last Tuesday of the month meeting still going on. But it's going to require a great deal of willingness on the part of our local newspapers and community members in order to be able to keep up with the budget process this year as compared to what they're used to, in which we sat here as a board of 9, and with the TV rolling, they didn't necessarily have to come to the meetings in order to catch up with them. And I think that's going to be crucial for this community to follow the process. I just like that said up front right now, so that they're on notice that this is going to be a change in the structure than what they've been accustomed to over the past few years. I think it'll be more efficient. I just also think that there are members of the community that are going to wonder if they're tuning into Channel 16 how we went from here to there, and not realize that there's still a lot of work going on, and it's still happening, and it's still open to the public.
If you remember, when this came up at our committee meeting last week, we discussed this, and I think all of us realized that there will be additional meetings possibly that may have to be plugged in here. I think what we were looking for is just to get a basic calendar. But I think we always have the option, as we've had in the past, Madam President, that if we feel that, because I remember sitting with our calendars and setting certain dates where we had to have additional meetings, and I think that option will still be open to the board. I think it's just a little difficult. I tried to reach Ms. Shear this week a couple of times, and our schedules just wouldn't permit. But I was thinking that from February 24th until April the 7th, 24th will be a preliminary overview, and then we have March 3rd will be the Finance Committee budget meeting. We really have almost a 2-month or month-and-a-half period there where we as a committee can decide when we meet with Carol if we're going to have to have more meetings or schedule more meetings. So I think it's nice to use this as a working format and look at as a proposed budget meeting schedule with possible changes or subject to change.
I guess the one in
hang loose,
particular,
guys.
I agree.
Pat, the one in particular that I thought of was, since we as a committee are receiving the preliminary budget overview, perhaps a meeting where a transmittal is delivered to the full board, so that the board can at least have a basic understanding and receive that, have that document presented to them through our Director of
Well, it
Finance,
could be done
would
through
be
our
the
packet.
March 10th work session. That is not on here.
It can
And
be
my
done
only
through the
concern,
packets. We can determine that in committee.
but April 7th through April 16th wouldn't, but we would have to schedule fairly soon. That's not that far off.
I know, but what
The
I'm saying
March
is, we
10th
can determine
work
in
session.
committee, that we've already made the assumption tonight that information will be going out to all the board members. And
Right.
you have to keep something in mind. These committee meetings are open to the
Open to the
public. If
public,
someone is
right.
that interested in finance, then I would suggest they come to the committee meetings.
Right.
And not leave everything here to
And
sit
also,
here
it's
for 4 and
always-
5 hours and discuss. I remember previous meetings where we sat here for 4 and 5 hours and discussed 2 subjects on the budget. That can be done in committee now.
That is fine, as long as if the board members feel they need more of a collective body input on this, that's fine. I don't want to reach the end, and then it takes 9 board members that vote on a budget.
Yep,
It isn't a vote
exactly.
by committee.
Exactly.
And so that's why I would just say that, as looking through this, and the fact that it's May 1st, when I see a make budget available to the public, and I guess I'd like Carol to let me know, what will the community be working with up through to May 1st? Because I didn't really catch that until after our committee disbanded.
The information we
That
give in the
day.
meeting.
What will the community be working with from the time that we're developing, and we've got a board to adopt the proposed budget, which is the preliminary budget, right? What will the community be working with in following the budget process through to May 1st?
Carol, wouldn't they be working with just preliminary budgets?
Because, no,
agendas?
we normally had a preliminary budget, though, that's there at the beginning of the process. And from what I'm seeing, the first budget that you're referencing is when we make adoption of the preliminary budget.
Carol, I think it would be helpful
Will
you
they
to
have a
understand
document?
how we did this in the past.
Oh, I know how we
would sit
did
as
that.
a board, and we would take the various items in the budget, secondary ed, transportation, community relations. We would sit here with our calendars and pick out certain nights where we would sit and dissect those particular areas in the budget. And we would sit with our budget books and go through all those little items. I think, I'm only saying that because I know you've changed the process. I know you've changed the process, but I'm giving that to you as a historical or as background, so perhaps you can answer the question better, knowing how we did it in the past and perhaps where the change is going to be.
Well, that's
We
not
know
my-
it's not going to be that way this year, where we're going to sit here. We may do that as a whole and discuss topics, but hopefully, majority of the work will be done in committee, and that will just be, they will be committee reports to the board as a whole. because they will have gotten the same information we transmitted out of the
Mr.
committee.
Mosey, a
meeting.
majority of the work was done last year in cleanup by Tom
Yes,
Tracy and then picked
yes.
up by Carol Deddy. The information that we've received since Mrs. Deddy has been here has been very complete, well documented, and there are a number of board members that just don't want to over-process anymore in lengthy meetings and to make such an issue out of it. Carol Deddy is very much aware this is a conservative school board and expects a conservative budget. This is her first budget, and looking forward to her delivering that conservative budget. This schedule so far, quite a number of nights are, there you
Yeah, you don't have any
go.
pressure.
Quite a number of meetings are already set aside. If we need more meetings towards the end, that's
Like I said,
great. But,
like I said,
you know, these
we can
committee meetings are
schedule.
open to the public. If board members need more, they can show up. But I think there's going to be plenty of board members that are comfortable with what Mrs. Deddy sends out.
Well, we as a committee too can determine if we feel we need more committee meetings before we bring
Absolutely.
anything
Yeah, we
before the board.
Absolutely.
That'll be done by us.
Absolutely. But
There's no
I
reason
know
to
that we
burden
don't
the
have
board
to
with all
over-fret
this.
and over-process, that's for sure.
Well, that's quite true. I just wondered, are we going to have a bound document that's available to the public prior to the May 1st, prior to the vote where we vote on the proposed budget?
We'll determine that in
Can I ask you a
committee.
question?
We may not be ready to deliver.
sorry.
Well, just so
I'm
that they
sorry.
know that this
I
isn't all
just
there
have to
is.
ask a question.
Thank you, Karen.
In-
It just,
Okay, we have to vote on this at the action meeting, okay? This is basically informing the committee of our intent
For advertising.
to pass the
Correct.
budget
Right.
next year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're not adhered to having to approve it by May 21st?
Oh, no.
no, we have till the
Okay,
end of.
We still have the June
Yep.
30th?
We have plenty of time
Okay.
for extra meetings.
If it comes to that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mrs. Deddy, do I understand correctly that during the preliminary budget process, on February 24th, you will be giving an overview to the committee, correct? Am I correct in assuming that at the April 7th board work session, that when it says budget, that you would be giving a preliminary budget overview for the community at that time?
Yes,
You know, work session.
Okay, at a normal work session, correct?
yes.
Okay, so you would have a document at that meeting, correct, to distribute?
Yes, we will be developing to the Finance Committee a
Right,
working document.
but when it comes on the 7th to the board work session, you would have a preliminary document
Yes,
to be distributed, correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr.
Yes.
Allen?
When in this process do we get to hear from all the department heads and the directors of the different areas as to what their proposal is for their part of the budget for next year?
These 2 days.
No,
Well,
that's done.
All I
We
see
were,
is finance committee. I don't hear a time where Mr. Rusnick comes up and
That's
says,
what I'm
this is
saying.
what we need for our part of the budget next year.
It's not gonna be done that way anymore.
And this is why we need this, and when do we hear from the administrative staff as to what's needed?
yeah, the process that we set up this year is a little different in the sourcing of the budget, in that all of the administrators were given an opportunity to develop new or modified programs through budget documentation. That budget documentation has been distributed to the cabinet, and very shortly, we will be going through that and prioritizing which areas are important, most important, and least important. Those priorities will then come forth to the Finance Committee and full board as options for consideration.
Administrative recommendations from the cabinet
Yes.
to the finance
And that's what it should
I
be,
guess-
it's their budget.
Delivered by Carol.
I guess what I'm asking is, how do we know if the budget, if something's been added? I mean, when is the full board going to know any significant changes in the educational
Committee reports.
Well, the way-
process that and anything we want to do? Because if it goes to the committee, I would assume that what I'm saying is the committee can say, well, as a committee, we're going to vote to eliminate, or we decided we want to add this, and then we don't know what the educational and the support services of the administration feels pro or con about what that committee's done.
And I can understand the confusion based on prior years, but Finance Committee will be looking at a lot of policy type matters and not so much making any kind of determinations about specific programs. The way the budget documents have been constructed this year is that there's a maintenance budget, which is everything that is to be continued is set up in the budget. Anything new or a change is coming in separate proposals. And they've been set up in kind of a succinct way that makes it easy to scan and not have to study hard. What's the program you're proposing? Who does it benefit? What's the rationale? What's the cost?
And that'll go to the full board?
Yes.
Okay.
Carol, do you also want to add that we had a presentation of the 3 financial models, that as we go along the process, as the revenue, as we firm up some of the numbers, we can see where the bottom line millage is falling into place?
That's important. The full board at some point in time may wish to have 10 minutes before their eyes roll back on a similar presentation. But it is important to look at things at a policy level and at a governance level and a multi-year plan in terms of, I call it equilibrium. It's really stability. It deals with present and future planning, and it deals with peaks and valleys of tax equilibrium. That probably should be a brief introduction to the full board, but we have set up, Frank said it was 3 models, actually we did 5. 3 are more workable in looking at exactly what happens if certain revenues change, where are the decision points, what are not decision points because they're rather fixed, and set it up in a spreadsheet such that we can actually do what-ifs sitting in a meeting like this and putting it up on the wall very quickly.
Right.
In showing, but I think the important part of what you were asking is there are some policy and governance issues that I'd like the opportunity for
We do
the
need to
full board
discuss.
to.
That's what they.
Because you brought up another good point, what if something goes wrong down the road, we need a reserve out there?
That's why, Carol, I think that understanding might be best achieved on March 10th. That finance at least have a placement on that work session if you want, for the opportunity to bring forward the general policy concepts. Again, we as a board, as a committee, we are a minority of a quorum. We certainly don't have the ability for official action. And that's my concern, is that we can meet as often as we want as a committee. There are areas that by law we don't have the authority to vote on or take official action on. There has to be the opportunity for this board as a corporate body to act, or it will go untouched.
The schedule.
That's correct.
Exactly. Okay, Mr. Shapinsky, Mr. Hill, anything?
No.
Mr. Schilling?
No.
Okay, members of the audience, any questions about the 98-99 budget calendar? Any comments that were made? Anybody? Okay, thank you. Mrs. Steady, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Not on this.
Another matter?
New matter?
No, can we do that? Not tonight.
No, Mr. Bartle,
I think so.
we must on work sessions.
Yes, sir. Come forward. Your name and address, please.
You said we had.
We had to.
He said we had to.
All right, folks.
I am Bob Pearson, 222 Rabbit Run, Montgomery Township. For the last 7 years, I have volunteered in giving 2 basic courses for 4th and 5th grade students. USA Geography is alive and thinking math. I have given these courses in many school districts in Montgomery County, Delaware County, Bucks County, and Philadelphia and New Jersey. It has been very rewarding to me concerning the enthusiasm of these students and the results they achieve. Lately, I gave U.S. Geography is alive in the Centennial School District. A few parents living in Montgomery Township asked if I might give this class to their children. I went to Montgomery Township, and they thought it was a good idea. The township is allowing me to use the meeting room from on Saturday, March 7th and 14th from 9 to 10:30 a.m. And I even have a snow date of March 21.
There you go.
Probably we might need 2 at the time. The cost is $5 to register for these 2 periods. And that covers my workbook on geography and also a yellow marker, which is used with the workbook. Now, I am asking a favor from this school district. I have a form here, and if any of the students would like to take this course, why, they could fill it out, or they could obtain it from Montgomery Township building. And I just wondering who I might give this to, and
Mr. Pearson, what I'll do is take this form and I will check the proper procedure to do such a thing, if we're even allowed to do so through the solicitor. But even if we can't do that, if he says that we can't, you just put a very nice advertisement on Channel 16. So that too will work.
I was up there
Absolutely.
yesterday.
I mean, you'll be played all week.
Mr. Pearson?
But I will take this through the solicitor, and I will make sure that district personnel gets back to you as to whether or not that can be done.
What I would like to see, minimum, is Montgomery School is right there near the township building.
Right.
So if they put that up on the bulletin board, or just make announcements, because this is a basic course, and it's pretty hard to get volunteers in a basic course. If it's technology, it's a lot easier. So I don't want to give the course just to myself. If I can get a few students, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will get back to you. Okay.
Donna, before you go on next thing, I'm being bugged by my partner next to me here, but I want to make one announcement that the Meet and Discuss group has not met with the administrators, or we have had no discussion with the administrators, but as the board is aware and as the community is aware, is that the process that is going on now is that the administrators are putting together a merit-based plan so that future dollars that are appropriated for administrators will be distributed, at least in part, through a merit process. To assist the administrators in this work, a number of individuals on this board, it's not a board item and it's a working document, has been worked on giving the administrators working on this merit process some ideas or some things that we'd like to see within this plan. Those items will be passed on. Some have been passed on, others will be passed on to the administrators as those things come together. This will be an announcement on the Thursday meeting also.
Okay. Any other matters as it related to finance? We were closing up finance. Okay, Dr. Bose.
I have an announcement to make, and it's one that I won't find easy, and I will try to remain composed as I do so. But I've advised the board in the executive session earlier this evening that finishing the last month of my 24th year as a public school superintendent, having worked in 3 different states, and finally my home state as a public school superintendent, I've decided to retire from that job. And I do so with a variety of emotions, and I'm fighting now to hold my composure as I tell you this. I've decided for a variety of private reasons that I'm at the end of my career as a school superintendent, and I need to step back from that and look around and smell the flowers and enjoy the birds and feel the soft rain and walk through life looking for something else to do. I believe that I leave at a good time when I feel good about what I've done, and I hope those around me feel good about what I might have contributed. And I have a lot of private reasons for having made this decision. I feel confident that the board understands and respects those reasons, and I hope the community would respect that as well. I have been privileged to work in North Penn, and I've gained a sense of satisfaction from having worked here. Overall, though, I'm ready to walk on to something else, and I have promised the board that I will do everything that I can to help make a smooth transition in leadership from mine to someone else's, and I assure the community that I will maintain that responsibility up to my last day, which will be the 1st of August, 1998, which is the end of my 3rd year as North Penn superintendent. And I wish the community well. I thank the board for the privilege of serving in this position, and I say God bless you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
It has been my pleasure to work with you. I have never worked with a greater gentleman, a more moral character, a more unsung hero as I have you as superintendent. And you've made my transition as board president from the last 2 years an easy one because of your constant work. You've worked like a plow horse here. You've been here on weekends. I've seen your car here on weekends, all hours of the day and night. And I have never known a superintendent in all my years here to work the way you have. And so that's my personal opinion, and I know that Don Hill, as board vice president, shares my feelings, and I know Tom Clemens, as former president, does the same. You've made a big difference in this district since '95, and you've tackled things that no one else had the guts to tackle. You are probably the most important player in the teacher's contract that was settled this past year. You also have taken on policies that were no attention had been paid to before, and also you were willing to assist the board in tackling a financial audit that this district had never taken on before with the Deloitte & Touche audit. So your years here have been one of hard work and bravery, and I admire you more than any superintendent I've ever met. In light of that, and not to be too hasty, but as Dr. Bose would want it, and so do I, this district will go on and will move on. We have work to do. We have over 13,000 students to serve and 1,500 employees to meet their needs and to show direction and stability to them also. I am seeking consensus and support from this board that we move ahead next Thursday at the action meeting and that we approve Dr. Robert Hassler for a 3-year term as superintendent of the North Penn School District effective August 1st, 1998. And in doing so, with that approval, you also grant approval for our solicitor to go ahead and negotiate a contract with this gentleman. Looking for support, Mr. Mosey?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mr. Seat?
Yes.
Hill? Sure.
Yes.
Mr. Schilling? Okay. Dr. Hassler, please take all 9 members of this board and their wish to see you move ahead to the helm of this district and continue on the good work that Dr. Bose has started and is ongoing, and take that as a potential vote of confidence to be consummated next Thursday evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. order?
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
You guys need to-